In California, single-payer health care is a major topic of conversation. Phil Mateer and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown his thoughts.
Well, first of all, the Washington scene, it's a repeat of what actually happened in the House. When Ryan couldn't get it going on the first time out, Ryan very carefully backed up and promised everybody everything and would give anybody anything for a vote because he knew he didn't really have to ultimately pay. McConnell is trying to do the same identical thing. The difference, however, is it's personal with McConnell. He dislikes Barack Obama so intensely, he's willing to forego every consideration in order to continuously pursue his permanent embarrassment of Obama.
And here in California, we have single-payer health care, which was pushed by the Bernie-crats and the California Nurses Association, sailed through the Senate, and now it sits in the Assembly, the Democrats' plan, going nowhere.
Well, you know, even members of the Assembly who voted for it will say, yeah, it was really deficient. Especially, I mean, there's got this, the major piece that's missing, of course, is the funding piece. Although I'll tell you, I've talked to a couple of members of the Assembly, Assemblyman Chu and also Senator Weiner, who both say this isn't over yet, that they still, maybe much like Mitch McConnell, think that they can go into a room somewhere and get this figured out, although this is a heavy, heavy lift.
Okay, people have been trying and focusing on single pay for years. And it started out with maybe one or two people, and it's been growing in terms of the number of people participating. And believe me, it's never going to get beyond the consideration place because $400 billion is too much money to be devoted to any single thing. And no one wishes to say, I'm recommending it, here's what it costs, and this is how we ought to pay it. If they did that, it would be a much fairer argument, and it wouldn't sail through any house, any place, no matter what the health plan is.
You know, we have been talking about single payer for years. And I think we hear again and again that a lot of people like the idea of single payer, but when it comes to actually paying for it, they don't want to be the one to have to pay for it. But there are such strong supporters now that I understand there are death threats for people who are opposed to it.
Right. So the Assembly Speaker, Anthony Rendon, sort of is the one who put a hold, essentially, on the single payer plan for now. He said, look, this is half-baked. We don't know how to pay for it. We don't know lots of things about it. So he sort of shelved it for a bit, and his family is getting death threats, essentially, as a result of this move, which essentially was really to help his members avoid having to take that vote that Willie Brown was just talking about that would, essentially be endorsing a $400 billion plan. So, Rendon definitely paying the price, at least for now, for our latest failed attempt at single payer. Former Republican Assemblyman David Hatley has announced his plans to run for California governor. He now joins a growing field of candidates vying for that seat in 2018. Phil Mateer and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown for his take on the candidates for governor so far.
Too many. Believe me, the most recent one, of course, was John Chung. Just a couple of nights ago, I was down in L.A. making a speech. Who shows up to hear me? John Chung. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Don't you have anything else to do? And just as I walked out, my telephone rang, and it's Antonio Villaraigosa. I hear you here in Los Angeles. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've got Villaraigosa, good friend, good buddy, former mayor, was my designated appointee on the floor of the legislature. I got Newsom, whom I put on the board of supervisors. I got to recognize my strength in the Chinese community with Brother Chong. And believe me, Delane Easton was my point person when we saved all that money.
Mayor, enough about you. Let's move on to the governor's race. Well, listen.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people. You asked me how many people I had in the race, and I'm giving you the whole list.
You've got the whole front line.
Believe me, Phil, I'll be in trouble if I don't mention every one of them's name.
And there are more of them coming out every day.
Well, I like that Chung knew well enough to know that he should show up and sit in the audience, and that's the way to your heart. Like that's how to get in good with Willie Brown.
Oh, you were suggesting that I somehow need an audience? Is that what you know? That's what
No, politicians don't suffer from that affliction.
I'm not a politician anymore.
No, he's just an ego that acts like one.
No, a politician, you will always
I'm
be
making
a
a transition.
Have you thought
I don't know yet.
Possibly run for governor?
The field's wide open.
That is a possibility.
You heard it first.
Breaking news.
Well, can you imagine if Willie threw his hat into the ring?
Hey, you know what? He'd beat a lot of people who are in the race just now. And I have to say, though, adding more Republicans to the race is not good for Democrats. You know, for a Democrat, what they want is one good, strong Republican candidate that can get all the Republican votes so that the runoff in November is actually Dem versus Republican and not Dem versus Dem. So every time one of these folks, a former assemblyman and David Hadley enters, we've got John Cox and some other folks, it's the Democrats have to say, oh no.
And Gavin Newsom has sort of been out there from the beginning. It was sort of his rite of passage. This was supposed to be his office. And now with all these other Democrats coming out, I wonder how the Democratic Party feels about so much competition so early on.
Well, and we saw what happened to Hillary Clinton. The "it's my turn" argument, not that compelling.
Successful there.